Hi, good afternoon to you all and welcome to another episode of the Restoration of Noel. In this episode I'm going to go over the carburetor, which I have rebuilt very recently. There's a couple of things I wanted to point out to you. It's not something that I've done before, rebuilding a Zenith carburetor. So it was a learning curve for me, and I thought I'd share with you a couple of the tips that are worthwhile knowing in my opinion. Now, as you see, all the linkages have been repainted. Everything's working beautifully, so that's all nice. I didn't have the facility to zinc plate these linkages. That would have been the the concourse way if you wanted it to be exactly as a brand new carburetor, and maybe as well you would have bee blasted the body maybe. So haven't done that, so it's got a bit of an original patina on it, but it's all been cleaned out. It's got a new throttle shaft, so there's no play there. Everything is working on it. It's got a new diaphragm in the accelerator pump, but it doesn't have a new float chamber needle, and we'll come on to that now in a minute. And it doesn't have a new throttle disc. I'll mention that now in a minute. And it doesn't have a new metering needle here, and I'll tell you why. If you come over here, so I'm going to try and take the camera off without touching any of the buttons to mess it up, because I haven't had a great deal of success so far. Camera round. Wow, you didn't even notice that happening, did you? So over here in the vise, if I just get it to focus, there we go. We've got the new metering unit. Now these, this is part of the kit that I bought from Emberton, I think they are, Land Rover spares on eBay. I did look to get an original, sorry, not a genuine kit of spares from Berlens, who are the Zenith part suppliers, but they wanted the best part of £100. Emberton's on eBay, Emberton Imperial, they wanted a whopping £14.95, so I did go for that. Now I know what you're thinking, if you buy cheap you buy twice. I think I'll have got away with it this time, but it is worth pointing out that the threads, the pitch on the threads on this needle here, they should have been exactly the same as the original, but they're not. This lock nut was on the original needle, so it should have gone beautifully on here. But if you see, if I just spin this around, it's not working its way down the thread at all, because it's stripped the threads off that, so that's completely rubbish. Fortunately, the original metering unit was pretty much mint. It was, I didn't really have to change it. It just needed a bit of a clean, so we put that back in. So we were lucky there. The other thing worth mentioning is the float needle. Sorry, let's get the. Here we go. Here we go. So I'm holding the camera and trying to do this with one hand now. It's pretty awkward. This, the float needle, which is going to allow fuel into the float chamber. Now then, this is supposed to drop in relation with the floats moving up and down that govern the amount of fuel that goes into the float chamber. But if you do, basically, when I fitted it, it was sticking. It wasn't. There we are. You can see it's just not there. It's just not responsive enough. And in actual fact, the original one was absolutely fine. There was a little groove on the original one, but that sealed nicely into the original seat. So again, it was a case of just cleaning that, and I popped it back in. I did change the throttle spindle. You can see that you can see it is stepped. There's a wear there, so there was quite a bit of play in that throttle spindle, which of course could let air in and affect the mixture, which would make it difficult to tune. So I did do that. We didn't use the throttle butterfly. This is the new one. The original one was absolutely fine and was actually thinner than this one, so there was no reason to use that. And we haven't used also some of these other brass bits because, again, I couldn't see anywhere. I cleaned up everything and I prefer to basically reuse it. I couldn't see any wear on them. They are just allowing certain amounts of air and fuel in through the metered holes there. Basically something that really didn't wear. Did change the gaskets. Here's the old gasket, and I did change the accelerator pump diaphragm as I mentioned before. So there we are. We've done that for 15 quid. Pretty happy with that result. I'm confident that that's all going to be absolutely fine. There shouldn't be any issues with that, and it doesn't look kind of over restored just as well because I haven't spent the money on it. Other things to mention are the front brakes are now done and all sorted. They're all nice and smooth. Going backwards, because I know that quite a few owners are having problems with the drum rotating backwards when you've got new shoes in. So I have coated the inside of this drum with ferrosol, so I will be taking it off. That's what that is, just leaking out. But it's nowhere near the shoes. It's just an anti-corrosion method whilst it's, you know, sitting around and the rest of it's getting done. So that's nice and smooth going backwards, nice and smooth going forwards. I did in fact use the old shoes. I've just cleaned them up. I've used the old wheel cylinders. I stripped them down, inspected all the bores and rebuilt everything. And the same on this side. Just one other thing I want to mention before we end this video, this little update. Unfortunately, and I think Josiah Oldcastle will be laughing about this, these bloody U-bolts, which I had problems with last time. Look at those outer ones there. They've got that nasty metric thread. Bloody buggers. So the insides are imperial, as they should be. The outsides are metric. I had a bit of trouble with, I think it was Trans Global, were the suppliers of those. We sent them back, they sent more, they weren't right. I got fed up with it all, to be honest. They were insinuating that that Noel was a bitser and that he didn't have all the right bits on him, that they sold hundreds of these. But they're not right. I didn't want metric threads on the end. Didn't want them. But I've got them. It's going to have to stay that way because I can't be bothered to revisit the U-bolt situation again. I will cut the remainder off on there when it's settled down and I'm happy that it's all properly torqued up. But yeah, bloody metric bits on Noel. Not happy about that at all. There you are. Anyway, thanks again for everybody subscribing and following and viewing. I appreciate it all, appreciate the support, and I will see you again next time. Bye bye for now. Bye bye.